fucking typical, I don't know what to do. I'm on the scotch and I'm feeling kind of woo. Think you're scary, but I don't know what to do. Got nudge your boo, coo coo choo. Hey!
Welcome back to the lot. Holy shit, that's funny as hell. Backstage, I was just talking to Mike about how I wasn't a huge EDM guy, and
there we are.
I was so happy that Eggy's not just a band that just does that for every song. That and then
it's only cool.
I didn't even think about it, and then the fucking intro is like, there you go.
It's only cool if it's our theme song.
It is cool if it's our theme song. We should ask him, see if Eggy could do a cover of that. That's Jason's song. Anyways,
Forever Tongue, right? Isn't that called Forever Tongue?
Oh, tip of your tongue, but
tip of your tongue.
No, I get why. It's almost there. Welcome back to the lot. We have a really fun guest. We have Mike Goodman from Eggy, the bass player. I probably could have put that out as a quiz. What does he play? And just from the nature of how every guest we've ever had is a bass player.
Everyone, but a many.
Most of
many a bass player.
Many bass players. And Mike's he's a good one. And Eggy's awesome. You want to just bring him in? I don't need to do the housekeeping.
Yeah, no, we'll
do that later, maybe.
We'll sweep
Mike,
up.
how's it going?
Housekeeping.
Housekeeping.
What's up, guys?
Thank you so much for coming on. How's everything?
Pretty good. Can't complain. Staying busy.
I saw you guys just your pre-sale for the tour just went out today and on sale tomorrow. It's exciting. You guys have a lot of dates coming up. You're traveling all over the place.
Yeah, we're super excited. It's one of our biggest, if not the first real full headlining tour, where just about every single show is us for 2 sets at all these places. We've had the fortune and the pleasure to tour with a lot of our people who have become our really good friends and some bigger acts in the scene, and it's really exciting now to be able.
I'm gonna put Llama behind the code while I talk to you. Sorry.
No worries.
Go again.
I was going to say you're out. I just wanted to let everybody know you're out of Woodbridge, Connecticut, and shout out to the current Wook of the Year. He lives in Connecticut, so. And can I go back? Can I start?
Yeah.
I read that you started playing professionally at 13. Is this true?
Yeah. Totally. It's funny. When I was young, I started playing the upright bass in I don't know, fucking 4th grade or something, in the school orchestra. You're playing Mary Had a Little Lamb or whatever it is.
Right.
It sounds awful. But for some reason, I wanted to play the big bass, and
it's a whole vibe, though. I know what you're talking about. You meet bass players. The same thing with tuba or low brass. There's a whole vibe with the, that whole thing.
Get your beret out and.
It just is what I wanted to do, and I was so small at the time. I played a cello, but they tuned it like a bass, just because I was so small.
I thought you said you were going to say they put you on a chair.
Yeah, no, not even. No, they gave, I was basically playing a violin, but.
So when Kev says professional musician, what was your first gig? How did you break into not just being the guy playing Mary Had a Little Lamb with the
me and my friends really got into jazz as youngins, and we just decided that that's what we wanted to do. So we started booking gigs as you know, a jazz trio or jazz quartets. And, you know, by the time I was 13 or 14, I was playing 2 or 3
Weddings.
nights a week. You know, Sunday brunch, Wednesday dinner at the wine bar type of thing.
No, you had to get a special pass to get in.
Yeah. I mean, it was a lot of fun, and, you know, playing jazz was really cool to me. You know, I've always kind of been the same guy, like wearing Grateful Dead shirts and Birkenstocks and, you know, that kind of thing. And, you know, didn't necessarily have that typical jazz vibe, but neither did any of my friends. We kind of just liked it as a way to like get together and smoke weed and jam, you know?
It's like the great music without all the pretentiousness, right? Like it's just some guys hanging out playing really good music. I feel like some jazz trios are super pretentious and just like, you know, too into just the fact that it's jazz and not actually what the music is.
Man, it's funny because like, it's funny you say that, because I ended up going to school for music and like was really serious about wanting to be a jazz musician. And then I got to jazz school, and like I said, I was always this guy, you know, smoking weed. I wear fucking rap, like, you know, what, you know, but I played jazz and I was pretty good, but the scene was so pretentious. It was like, yo, if you're not wearing a button-down shirt
and a beret,
like, some shiny leather shoes, you know, like you don't get asked to come play. You know,
so I've heard that too. That like formally trained jazz musicians and like people in that scene have almost like a distaste, or like they look down at the jam scene and jam bands and like Phish and the Dead and, you know, now Eggy, right? Like there's like almost like this, like, oh, that's, you know, a weird attitude towards it.
I think that like, I think it mostly comes from like a younger group of people, you know, like I feel like the older generation of jazz,
they're like, wherever I can make a buck, I'll play with you.
and it was always like incorporating different aspects. Like Herbie Hancock was basically playing by the time Miles was,
Miles did a hip hop album,
rock and roll, essentially.
You know, Miles did that hip hop song later in his career.
You know, it was jazz wasn't always like that, and I think that like a group of our younger guys, like around my age, maybe a little bit older, kind of got into this thought that if it's not like pure jazz, it's not music, you know? And obviously
it's kind of like ironic because it's against the whole mentality of jazz and how it all originated anyway.
Yeah. And I also, you know, and it's not true across the board, you know.
Yeah, no, of course
that are the best have no reservations about what genre is or anything like that. They get it, but you know, it was mostly like in school that it was like.
Yeah, and you're not the only one that I've heard this from. Actually, on this show, I think we've had a couple of interviews with musicians that have said that they almost had to like for a little while hide the fact, or they couldn't be, you know, fully out, like, oh, because I'm in a jam band or I play jam music, because it was like
Taper's Choice was talking about that.
Yeah, and Adam, the drummer from Jazz's Phish, also I remember said something along those lines.
So let me. Can I ask you off to that? Are you still on Mellify?
Yeah, I you know, the site hasn't had that much traffic on it.
Right. I was wondering. I know them because I did a read for an ad when I did a podcast with Osiris, but they did. I saw that you taught, and I was wondering, do you teach jazz? You're talking about jazz here. Is that what you teach there, or what do you?
You know, I have a couple of students that I meet with just about every week. You know, usually I'm the one that has to cancel on anybody, but you know, I don't typically go that route with everybody. You know, a lot of my students want to learn about jamming and funk and stuff like that. You know, it's not something I would force on anybody, because I don't think you need to go through that route. to become a great musician. You know,
But
I
does it
think
help with jamming? Like knowing these, modal chords and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, music theory is absolutely something that I stress very strongly with my students, and just with myself and with my personal discipline at school. I studied extensively in music theory. I took every single music theory class that the school offered to my detriment, because I didn't technically complete my my degree because I just took all the classes I wanted to take. But
using education properly and not for a piece of paper, actually.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm
basically.
curious then because I know, like, if you're well educated in music theory, when you're actually playing, are you thinking of like the chord structure and like, oh, I'm going to go to the root here, or I'm going to suspend it, or is it more natural? Because I've talked to players that don't know music theory, like especially with bass, you almost like it's been described as like you just feel where it goes, or you know how to like manipulate it. But is your mind, like the dialogue in your mind when you're playing, more technical and academic, or does it feel more organic to you?
There's like a barrier, that you get to when you don't know any music theory. You have this like amazing freeness about you.
Like punk
It
rock
just-
was. They knew nothing. They picked up their instruments and banged it out.
Yeah, and sometimes like your ear just takes you to places that you wouldn't expect, and I think that's a amazing place to be. I know guys that are amazing songwriters that don't know anything about theory, and they're always like, "Oh, I don't know anything about theory. I don't know anything about it." And then they play me a song, and I'm like, "Well, it's clearly not true. Like if I could talk to you about this song in a way that would make this sound really complex in music theory, is like, but you just hear that, and that's
Right.
that's fine." And then as you start to dive into it, there is like a little bit of like a resistance between learning this knowledge and being able to apply it, where you are thinking, oh, I'm thinking too much about scale degrees, or modes or scales, or modal interchange, secondary dominance, whatever it is. And then
I know what none of that means.
I love it. I'm so excited. It's so cool.
yeah,
Right.
but then I feel like there's a point where you can get to with music theory where you lose all that again.
Because
Right.
you
It's like
transcend it because
mastery.
you know it. Right, yeah, you transcend it.
I feel like
Yeah.
the real advantage of having that knowledge is with the jamming, because you can hear something on the keys or guitar that because you see the whole thing, right? Like of theory, like, oh, by playing that interval, it's really setting up this mode, and be instantly, like we're in Mixolydian. You know what I mean? Like I feel like you can
Right.
jump into that easier and hear
Yeah.
better, understanding what's going on versus
Totally,
just
but
playing by
again,
ear.
not something that I think about. Like I will hear something, a specific note, and know what scale or something to play, but a lot of that comes from, like I said, the knowledge and the repetition of these things, where it becomes second nature. Like I could get in, you hear the sharp 4 of something, and it's like, oh, now we're going into a Lydian type jam.
Right. So if you went back and analyzed it, you would say it like that, but in the moment, you're not thinking
not
of it
going.
that
No,
cleanly.
not
It just happens.
yeah.
So
no.
let me ask you about Teases then. We were talking a little bit beforehand of, I was listening to a show and you did Crazy by Seal in the
Yep.
middle of one Master of Puppets in the what is the burrito song.
Yep, that sounds about right.
How do you end up, do you guys hear the tease, or have you said before, hey, we know this song, we can throw it in here? Is it conscious or not?
It's usually pretty on the fly. It may be something that we've talked about or worked on before, you know, and a lot of those teases come from Jake, you know, from the guitar realm, and it's like, you know, we have a great ear among us, and we all know a lot of music. I think we've studied music in that way very intensely, you know, where Jake all of a sudden hears Master of Puppets, like, we know how to play
It's
that.
fantastic.
We know
And
how
he
to
feels safe
somewhere-
enough to just go for it, right? Like
Yeah,
you guys have an environment.
somewhere in my head, I know how to play it, even if it takes me 2 times around to be like, okay, I know.
It's
I
from
know
the
now.
Mercury. For anybody who wants to look it up, it's from the Mercury Lounge. Earlier this year, it's on YouTube. Both sets, they have the full sets.
I feel
So
like even
check
if you
that out.
don't play it perfectly, that's fine with the tease too.
Oh, no,
right?
th-
Like,
that's
you know
even
enough
better.
music.
That
Right.
you stumble into it, you know. That's
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's pretty much never planned. And like I said, Jake will usually just, I don't know, fucking hear something. I don't know where it comes from. He just plucks these things out of the air sometimes, and it's like, all right, we're going there. Let's do it.
You guys have awesome chemistry on stage. Like when you're talking about Jake, I was just thinking about that moment at Peach Fest when you guys first. God damn it, I forgot the keyboard's name. But first he goes over keyboards and like they're Danny, and they're playing off of each other, and he puts his
Donnie,
head down.
Donnie.
it's just, I don't, you know, we get on Donnie's case all the time for spelling his name wrong, but yeah, Donnie.
Okay,
Okay.
Donnie, very nice.
And then Jake comes over and turns to you, and the chemistry, it's like you guys have been playing for 50 years. And I mean, I don't know how long you've been playing, but I can tell by your age, you haven't been playing for 50 years. So it's amazing how great your chemistry is for being a relatively young band, I feel like.
Yeah.
Is that living in the 8 crate there?
It, you know, it comes from that, but with Jake especially, I mean, we came up together in music. I've been best friends with him and Donnie as well since we were like 13 or 14, and I mean, so many of my formative music experiences, even if it's like, yo, check out this fucking video I discovered on YouTube in 2008 of this whatever jazz guitar player or Phish or whatever it was, like, almost all of those memories have Jake in them, you know?
That's awesome.
We would literally be skipping class in high school and be in the band room, like in the back room hiding and like watching music videos on YouTube for hours when we probably should have been in math class or some shit.
Lana, what's up?
Did you and Jake go to your first show together, your first Phish show together?
We didn't. I'm a year older than Jake. So at the time when Phish got back together in 2009, you know, I was able to like beg my mom to let me go, you know.
Right.
Smart choice.
But he wasn't able to beg his mom.
I think the very next summer, Jake and I were seeing multiple shows together, but our first show was unfortunately not together.
Well, how has watching Phish play together affected the way you guys jam together?
I mean, definitely is a huge part of why we do what we do. You know, we don't try very hard to sound like Phish, but we try really hard to think like them. You know, and we've seen dozens and dozens of shows together, and you know, being able to experience these peaks or these blissful jams and like look at each other and be like, that's that thing there, like that's what we want to do.
That's
and,
awesome. That's awesome.
Even before we were actually in Eggy together, like we'd be at a Phish show and we'd look at each other and be like, we're gonna do this one day. Like me,
it's pretty
and
badass to hear it and say we're gonna do this, right? Because I see that, I hear Phish or see it, I'm like, I have no idea what the fuck they're doing. I would never be able to do that. And you guys pull it off though. It's not even like it's a false statement. I feel like you legitimately, the music that I've heard, have incredible climaxes and bliss jams and peaks and do it. It's amazing.
Yeah, well, you know, thank you so much, and it's definitely a work in progress, you know. Like
sure,
guys like Phish have been playing together for 30 years, you know. We've got a long way to go for sure.
Yeah.
I like
But-
to look at the trajectory of, let's say, Phish in 83 to 88 and where other bands are. And it seems like a lot of the younger bands now have, are really further. And I guess maybe it's part of the infrastructure that exists now that encourages it, where maybe
There's
back
no
in
way to
83.
compare that in reality, though. Like, I feel like it's an entirely different world now. I mean, obviously, but like just with
Right.
technology and exposure and stuff.
Right. It makes it a lot easier, I guess, today. But I think that it
Or
also
harder.
helps. Well, but I think it helps the bands progress further quicker than maybe they would have back 30, 40 years ago.
I think it's the opposite. I'm curious if Mike has an opinion on that, but
I mean, I hope so. That would be great. But it's hard to say, like we've really been going at this for a long time. It hasn't been exactly Eggy in this respect, but it takes a long time. It's been 5, 6, 7 years of different forms of this, making it come together till it got to now. We don't have many of these recordings up anymore, but there's recordings of Eggy from 2012 that were, versions of Eggy, mutations, right. I guess,
And you pulled all that stuff down?
What's that?
You pulled it all down?
A lot of it like went away, like with different websites, like like some of it was hosted on like SoundCloud that I don't think anyone has any access to anymore, right. Or even knows where it lives, things like that. Right. Some of it we took down just to like make room for, like we record all of our shows, and especially before getting on Nugs, we just needed to like clear space for some of these shows because we were releasing so much at the time. Like,
you still have them on like a server or hard drive or something somewhere, right? Because I feel like that's something to hold on to.
I hope so, man. We got so many.
Like, fuck, I gotta ask someone about that.
We have so many fucking not dead, but like full hard drives we go through. It's like a graveyard. I mean, I hope someone has it on a backup somewhere, man.
It's called your vault.
Yeah. They are somewhere, but finding anything, we'll need help, You
guys got quite a few things on Bandcamp, including your debut, I guess, came out in 2019. And then you have this new cassette that came out. You want to talk a little bit about the studio thing, since we've been talking about the live part?
Yeah. Well, we love working in the studio. We always like come at music and our band and even jamming through like a song context. We feel like the song is what gives context to the jams, and it's what, you leave there singing at the end of the night. And, so being in the studio for us and writing new music is something we cherish. It's been a while since we've been in the studio, besides these Nashville tapes, which totally came out spontaneously, but it was so much fun.
Awesome.
How did they come about spontaneously? It sounds like that might be a story.
So we were on tour with Dopapod, I believe. Yeah, we were on tour with Dopapod, and we had a couple of days off, and we were in like the Nashville area, and one of Alex's friends works at a recording studio and hit him up and was like, "Hey, I've got some free studio time. I saw you were in the area. Do you guys want to come in?" And we were like, "Well, fuck yeah."
That's
free
awesome.
Studio time.
Yeah. So we got 2 days in the studio in Nashville in the middle of fall tour last year. And we recorded these 2 songs, which were both fairly new at the time. And we were lucky enough to have one of our good friends, Adam Soltis, who is an amazing videographer. He was able to capture some of the recording process. we released a video of the song Broken Bluff, which
Right.
he produced and directed. And yeah, like it was totally, we did not leave for fall tour anticipating recording in a Nashville recording studio. It really just kind of came
Were
together.
those recorded as jams, like as the whole band mic'd at once, or did you set up the rhythm section and layer on tracks and like do it more traditional style?
So that was kind of a hybrid. We played all together and then started like layering different things on top of it, taking certain things out. But the original like basic layer of it was us playing all at the same time, you know? So those were a little bit more of like a live in studio.
Yeah, I love that though. I think
With
that's my favorite
overdubs.
approach.
And who's the songwriter? Are you guys all right? Who's the lyricist?
So most of the songs are written by Jake and Donnie. And we also have a lyricist, our like Tom Marshall, I guess, in our friend Pat Amaranti, who writes most of the lyrics. But you know, like anything, you know, when we get together, there's always a bit of collaboration and stuff like that. But yeah, Jake and Donnie are definitely our
Primaries. They're your Lennon and McCartney.
exactly.
With the Tom Marshall, it's perfect.
Yeah.
So what comes first, the lyrics from your buddy or the music from the players?
You know, it goes back and forth. It definitely changes. You know, sometimes Pat will send Jake lyrics and he'll look at them and 5 minutes later there's a song, you know. Sometimes it's like, you know, I have this riff, but I don't know what to do with it. Okay, let me look at these old lyrics let me thumb through these old lyrics, and then he'll put something together, you know. And sometimes it's, you know,
It works.
yeah, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes they, you know, we have to stitch different things together. And, you know, there's been times where we're working on a song and we're FaceTiming Pat being like, hey, we're trying to do this. Like, can we change the words of this to this? Does this still make sense with what you think?
That's very nice of you to ask.
Yeah.
Instead of
Does this
just
still
like,
make sense? It doesn't make sense. but
I've
go
heard
with it.
Bob Weir, like Robert Hunter didn't want to write with Bob Weir because he changed guitar to Quasar in Greatest Story, and Hunter's like, fuck you, man, you ruined the song by doing that.
Well, you know, we like to ask when we can, but you know, sometimes if it works, it just works, and you know, we
Sometimes that
just
makes
happening.
for a better song having some random thing pop up.
Or a
in it that was-
mistake that actually just happened, and then you're like, you know what? This is now how it is. Nobody
Yeah,
will ever know that
exactly.
we just fucked it up.
right.
So
Did
did you
Jake
actually
ever
get
come
to
to you with the bass line already written, or are you pretty much given like the freedom, like
You know,
to lay in your part the way you see it and feel it?
Again, it varies. You know, sometimes there's a shell of a bass line. Sometimes there is a, you know, a specific, very specific part in a specific section. That's one thing that being in the studio is really cool, because we get to be a little bit more specific. You know, I can record a bass part, and then in real time we can play it back and be like, okay, you know, change this note, do this. Hey, you know, in this one section I'm hearing you do bum bum, you know, whatever, sing a different note, try that, you know.
Yeah.
You
That
know,
sounds like so much fun.
yeah, but again, it varies. Like, there are times where it is like, this is exactly what it is through the whole song, and you know.
So you're recording. You said you're recording now. Is this? Do you have a studio in your house? Or are you guys in an actual studio? Or
We do have a studio in the basement. You know, we have, luckily enough, to have access to some microphones and recording equipment, you know, that we do have set up in the basement. We have one of our friends, Justin Berger, over here recording and producing with us.
Awesome.
He's great. If you guys remember the McLovins from back in the day,
Yeah.
Yeah.
he was in that band for a while.
Oh, cool.
but he's an amazing musician, amazing songwriter. Little Kingdoms on Instagram, you should check it out. He writes really good music, and we're honored and happy to have him as a friend and have him come over and help us.
I feel like I interacted with the McLovins at some point. Like I had some thing with them. I don't remember.
They got to be open. They were opening for other bands and got. Were they from Connecticut?
Kind of went viral too. They were like
Right.
were viral to me, like in our scene and everything.
In the jam band
they had a Phish cover, like a Yem cover.
Yeah, exactly. I remember that.
Yeah,
It was awesome.
that went viral back.
Oh yeah, the kid was young.
Yeah,
Yeah, they were super young, which was just cool in itself. I guess you kind of grew up like that too, because like your dad, you were saying, was like a hippie and like was he a deadhead? So like you were raised, because I always think that's amazing when, well, I guess it's not as random, but like the young kids that get it and are like living like they're like, you know, I don't know. But so how did you get into that? Was it your dad?
yeah. I mean, totally. I I grew up. The only thing I ever listened to in the car was, the Beatles, the Beach Boys, the Dead, Crosby, Stills, and Nash. By the time I was, 8 years old, I was singing every Crosby, Stills, and Nash song.
And you did a fantastic job at Peach.
Thank you.
Oh my God, so good.
Unfortunately, my dad did pass away when I was pretty young, but he was a musician. He had perfect pitch. He could pick up any instrument and play it. He was always singing songs around the house. He was in a band back when he was a kid with Michael Bolton, who he went on to become very famous musician. So coming through him and growing up with that was definitely a huge influence. And then after he passed, I had his huge record collection, which is, everything from original, like, Europe 72 vinyls and, the American Beauty.
Are you a collector beyond what you got from him?
Yeah, definitely. Love vinyl. It's definitely.
I got way into it during quarantine. I was like, oh yeah, I got a record player. I'm going to start ordering records, and every day I'm getting something in the mail.
Yeah, it'll happen, and then they'll pile up quick. But it was definitely a huge influence.
I was waiting for to jump in with this next question, but
I have another question for you.
Lay it on me, brother.
All right. What's your favorite way to order your eggs?
Over easy.
Right.
So, with the pancakes and sausage links.
Nice.
How did you guys land on Eggy? Where did that come from? Tell us the origin story of that name, because I know it's a kind of a cliche question, but this is a particularly
we had
fun
space bacon last week, and now we have Eggy this week.
Eggy. Yeah, I'm curious.
It's funny. Like, it's not really food related at all. At least not in origin.
It's a bird, right?
Well, so it's Eggy was the childhood nickname of one of Jake, Donnie, and I's really good friends. And in the first iterations of the band that Jake and Donnie were kicking around in way back in high school, sitting around the lunch table, we were making jokes and saying, one day we're going to call the band Eggy. And he was like, no, fuck you. Whatever you do, don't fucking call the band Eggy.
He was done at that moment.
And so, as things progressed, first it was Eggy and the Delegates was the first ituration of the band. And then it just kind of got shortened. And, our friend Eddie, who was Eggy, he obviously he grew to love it. When we'd play shows,
I'm Eggy.
Yeah, he'd show up at the door and be like, I am Eggy, I am Eggy. And someone would come up to us in the green room or whatever, and they'd be like, someone is here that says he is Eggy, what do we do? I was like, oh, let him in.
Let
Like
him in,
that is
That's
Eggy.
actually Eggy.
That's our best friend, you know.
That's cool.
And so it's honestly pretty serendipitous.
Inside joke.
We lost Eddie 5 years ago. 5 years ago last weekend, actually.
Oh, man.
And so it's actually, you know, really awesome that we ended up doing that because we get to keep Eddie
Tribute to him, right?
and
Nice.
we get to see his name in lights and on marquees and things like that. It's really special, and you know, it's funny. Like it kind of is like a little bit of a reflection of us in a way too, because like Eggy, it sounds like super silly and like totally just like random and stupid, but deep down it has like a really serious meaning to us. And I really do feel like it's kind of a reflection on how we view life and music and everything in general, where it's like we don't take anything too seriously. We're really silly guys. Like we just fucking joke around,
fun with it.
make bits all the time, you know, and you know, we love playing music. We don't care if anybody was listening, like we would still be doing it. But we also take it really seriously and you know, so it is just funny how things work out that way.
So
It definitely shows how serious you guys take it, though, because the name is misleading a little bit, right? It's like, oh, Eggy, like somebody's told me, hey, check these guys out, right? The first time it was kind of like a recommendation. I was like, all right, me,
Yeah.
Mister, like, and then the talent and just the jams and how well you guys play. Anyone watching that hasn't, if you haven't checked out Eggy, you have to go check them out. There's tons of music on Nugs and YouTube and Bandcamp and all over the place, but it was just like, holy shit, you guys are like a legitimate jam band, not like a tier D. Oh, you might be at some after party. Like you guys are going somewhere, I think, and it's definitely worth getting into.
Do you know the Australian band Eggy?
We know of them.
Right, my favorite band is the Radiators, and they have a doppelganger in Australia called the Radiators, and they actually have songs that are named the same that are completely different songs.
Oh, that's crazy.
And I was just wondering if you'd ever heard of them, because they come up when you search Eggy.
I know, and it's funny, like we've tried to reach out with them, like we try to be like, shout out to Eggy if you guys are listening. Like we want to be friends, you know, it's cool.
This is international TV, so I'm sure they're watching.
Yeah, well, you know, like we've tried to reach out and just, you know, we haven't heard back from them, but like I said, if anyone's ever listening, like, yo, hit me up.
Do you think there's any like disappointed Australians that are watching this on YouTube thinking that their favorite band is being interviewed and then it's some American jam band? They're like, what the hell?
Or they show up at a show sometime, they're like, this is not Eggy.
Well, hopefully they would know by the time they showed up to a damn show.
Yeah,
this is an Eggy mate.
Yeah, what
that's not how Australians talk.
Oh man,
yeah, close enough, right?
Yeah, close enough.
British.
I mean, I don't know how they talk.
that's so funny.
So you guys want to talk a little Phish? We have a tour going on. We have a show tonight. Super exciting.
I want to know if Mike has been to any Phish shows recently and what he thought of it.
So we just played a pre-Phish show in Atlantic City.
Okay.
And we went. It was on Saturday, so I went to this Saturday's show, and
I
first
was there as well.
Tweezer, big Tweezer.
Yeah, that Tweezer was something. But yeah, it was a really great show, and you know,
the whole band, or just you?
It was me and Donnie ended up staying for the show.
Okay.
Did you catch Dopapod afterwards, or Pink Duck and Phish, or anybody? Or you probably beat by that point doing a pre-show and the show.
Yeah, we had just come from playing Levon Helm's Barn the night before also.
Oh, with the guy from Rusted Root. I saw that video.
Yeah,
That's
we
so
had
cool, too.
Yeah, we had Michael from the lead singer from Rusted Root sing Send Me On My Way with us, which was, man, can
So
I tell you,
badass.
You
Gotta
all
tell
look
you,
so
that was
happy.
crazy.
You all, yeah.
So we were pretty beat, but always good to see those guys. They're Dopapod, especially really good friends of ours. We just did a tour with them this past year. Really can't say enough about those guys. They're fucking amazing.
I didn't get into town until after your show,
Mhm.
but I had a shit ton of energy left after the show, so I went to Dopapod and they rocked. But I know
Shit ton of energy.
anecdotally, at least, that you guys slayed on Saturday because everyone that was around in our crew that saw you guys would not shut the fuck up about how good it was in
Oh,
a good
yeah.
way. But like we were all hanging out and just raving about your show and like how
There
well
you
you guys
go.
played.
When
So
they
you
sell
definitely
balloons.
killed it.
That's how you know you made it, when you have the Nitrous Mafia shows up at your back door.
Right
You
on
know,
the boardwalk.
It happens. It happens.
It happens to the best of us.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen in Merriweather because it's a felony, and they were hauling people off for doing
Were there
it.
no balloons in Merriweather? I don't remember.
People had tanks, but when they got popped, they were like, dude, it's a felony in Maryland. You aren't in Pennsylvania anymore.
It's crazy.
What does an Eggy lot look like?
Like for now it's pretty tame.
Like six
But,
guys,
it,
years.
it
Any
gets-
entrepreneurs out there that want to bring some tanks over at the Eggy lot?
What would your ultimate Eggy bootleg shirt be? What song would you make into a shirt?
oh man, it's hard to say. There's the one that probably needs to be made, and we haven't done it yet, is something with Onitsuka Tiger. It's which is a song of ours, but it's based off a pair of sneakers.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
So it's definitely begging for some, Asics collab.
We
You
need
like
to get that
sneakers.
on the. We
I
need to do
do.
a bootleg on our.
It needs to have Tony the Tiger wearing the shoes.
Yeah, that would be. I would be down with that.
Yeah, and then Tony's wearing Eggy shirts. That way people know the band.
Hell yeah.
They can put it all together.
Yeah.
I'm in. Let's sell it.
All right.
Awesome.
Look, get the drawing.
Yeah, it's a work
These
one.
motherfuckers, I'm like the animation / graphic guy in the group. We all have like different roles and we do these different bits of production, and they just throw shit at me like, just hey, do this, do that. Yeah, I'll do that. Actually, that sounds dope. I'll totally design that t-shirt.
Yeah, well, we do that with Donnie. He's like really good with Photoshop, and we'll be like, "Hey, Donnie, like you got to make this for us."
This
like,
would be so cool, man.
Just sitting around getting baked, coming up with crazy ideas, and everybody's like, yeah, and then like the one guy that actually has to do it, it's like, fuck.
He also does just make like hilarious Photoshops too. Like we'll come up with some fucking stupid, ridiculous idea of like putting Kurt Cobain and Dave Mustaine from Megadeth, putting them together and calling them Dave Nirvane, like things like that, like, and he can do it.
Nice.
That's a good attitude to have with the jam band because the kind of like musical mashups and fun creative ideas, right? Like that's a good parallel to the like what you guys do with music.
It's a sad world that we don't have Kurt Cobain, but we still have Dave Mustaine.
Hey man, I like Megadeth.
You got through that
he
without
sells,
butchering
who's
it, Kev.
buying?
I'm proud
I know.
of you, man.
He sells. Who's buying?
Damn
I used
straight.
to have that shirt when I was like 13. I looked bad.
Yeah, well,
Like,
we
real
all,
bad.
we all had a metal phase, as far as I know.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I'm
Actually, that was
still in it.
preceding Phish and this scene. I was like, I went through a whole like Metallica, well, like a Rage Against the Machine, really. Like, it was like a little
Yeah.
bit of Metallica, and then into Rage, and then
I'm
into
kicking
Phish.
myself for not
Were you a
going to that.
Limp Bizkit fan?
No, Limp Bizkit kind of,
have
escaped
that,
me a
man.
little bit. But like honestly, the first band that like I heard and I was like, holy shit, you can play an instrument like this was Dream Theater. Like before I heard of,
Yeah.
because again, I grew up listening to like either jazz or like classic
Great.
rock, like. So like when I heard Dream Theater for the first time, I was like, whoa, you can play, a band can play like that.
I wanna do that.
Really, I was fucking blown away.
Aside from Phish, what are like your other big influences?
I mean, Little Feat probably has to be at the top of my list.
You do a couple covers of theirs.
Yeah, and we've done all of Waiting for Columbus before, like with the horns and with the slide guitar player, and you know, definitely has to be way up there. You know,
you did on Big Thief the other night. I know you've
Yeah.
done Unknown Mortal Orchestra. I mean, you
Yeah.
have a very crazy breadth of covers that you guys do.
Yeah, well, we like to tap into everything that we like, you know. I mean, a lot of those covers, you know, Big Thief or, you know, Unknown Mortal Orchestra, or we just played this past week one of the songs off Dawes' new album.
Oh, nice.
It really just comes from like whatever we're listening to at the moment, you know. We heard the song and we're like, I see it now, you know.
Yeah.
Like
And
that
then it's a
Big
matter of
Thief,
sitting down and transcribing it in your head so
Yeah.
you can play it.
like that Big Thief song, you know, if you've heard our version and if you've heard Big Thief's version, they're pretty different, you know. So, you know, sometimes it just takes like hearing a song and being like, I see how this is gonna go. Like we're gonna play this song and people are gonna fucking dance to it, or you know, or whatever it is.
This is
You
the
know?
one. So, can I go back to quarantine and
Yeah.
ask you about your choose your own adventure? In case anybody missed that,
Yeah,
I think it's fascinating, and we've talked about doing stuff like that with stories before.
yeah, it was man, it was a really crazy fucking experience. You know, it was one of those things where we were sitting around at the dining room table one day, kicking ourselves. Like, what the fuck are we doing? What the fuck are we gonna do with ourselves? Like, this might be forever. Like, we don't know.
This
Like,
is our
what-
life, right?
like
Yeah.
seriously though, like it was like that. We were kicking ourselves. We were fucking, you know, honestly, like getting frustrated. Like we were, you know, couldn't like make reasons for us to like go play and do these live streams anymore. It was starting to get like, you know, it started to get a little dark, honestly. And then like we were just sitting around like, we need something new. And like, I don't know, the idea just like popped into Jake's head. He was like, choose your own adventure. It's like, it's like one of them choose your own adventure books we had when we were kids. Like, and we literally that day announced it, like that we were going to do it. And we didn't even know what it was. When we,
Or how to figure. That's how
We
we
had
do
no-
shit sometimes. It's like, this is coming. Now we got to figure out how to fucking do it.
it's literally, dude, I'm telling you, it's literally how it happened. We announced it that day. We were like, choose your own adventure, like info coming soon, you know?
As soon as we figure it out.
That's short.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a keeper. We don't know, but we'll figure it out and let you know.
Yeah. And
So how does it work? How did it actually work? Like, how did you figure out and get it to work?
so it was essentially a way to get fans to like pick their own set list, you know?
Okay.
So we had either individuals or like groups of people come together and basically they became like a team, like almost as if it was like a tabletop adventure, like a Dungeons and Dragons kind of thing. Like they became a party and we started to write a story, you know? And it was mostly Donnie and I, obviously with help from Jake and Alex and our lyricist Pat Amaranti, writing these stories. And we would just sit down and write, the first chapter, say, of a story. And at the end of the chapter, it would be like, you know, there's a split in the path. Do you go this direction? Do you go over the mountain? Do you, whatever it
Or
was.
around the lake, or yeah.
And those choices corresponded to different songs. And then we would get those answers back from our fans. We'd basically send them a Google Doc with our story in it. They would tell us what they'd pick. And then over the next week or so, we'd get back to writing some story. And we would do this back and forth with the fans a couple of times till there was a story and a set list. You know?
And you performed a set list?
Yeah, we live streamed them from the studio in our house.
Awesome.
And you ended up with 3 different stories, or?
I think we ended up with 17 different stories, actually.
Wow.
Wow.
I don't have one here, but there is a book that we published that is a collection of all these stories. I mean, it's well over.
Where can people get that?
We did a lot.
Where can someone pick that up?
You can get that on eggymusic.com. You can get that right from or at the merch table. We have them with us too.
Nice.
I can't wait for this tour. I was just gonna have to get online, but I'm planning on catching a few of your shows this tour. It's gonna be fun. This seems like a big tour.
Are you coming to Baltimore and seeing them with me?
Yeah, well, no, I was thinking about doing Halloween in Charleston. They're going to the Poorhouse. I love that venue, and my brother's down there. And then I live in Philly, so coming up to Fillmore. So I was thinking about doing a little Eggy run. I'm not going out to Chicago for Tab. I mean, I love Trey, but I'm just not doing it. Like
Chicago is expensive.
It is expensive.
No, I think I might try to do a little Eggy run. I think that'd be fun as hell.
Yes, you guys are playing Baltimore, which I love because everyone skips Baltimore and plays DC.
Maybe I'll come hang out with you, Kev. I didn't mean to dismiss you.
We had a great time in that area on tour with Dopapod, so it was kind of a no-brainer to come back.
And which venue were you at? The Soundstage or the 8x10 or?
I think Soundstage.
That's the bigger venue. Yeah. That's like usually you start at the 8x10, then you play Soundstage, then you end up.
We were opening for Dopapod that tour, so
right,
it makes sense. But yeah, it was we had a really great response and people telling us to come back. So here we are.
Put your money in your shoe.
Yeah,
you go down to Baltimore.
I have one more Phish-related question.
Nice.
Oh yeah.
If you could jam out with any member of Phish, who would it be and why?
That's tough, man. But obviously the obvious answer is Trey, but the real answer is probably Paige, man. Because I don't know, I was always the guy, any Phish show that I was at for years, I was always the guy that would just yell at the top of my lungs, I'd be Paige's house. Paige's house. Like, no, it didn't matter what was going on,
I think I saw you at a show yelling that once.
Definitely. And then, so it's got to be Paige. And then I had one other, like, really spiritual experience with Paige, in a sense. I saw Paige and the Metermen in New York City. So, George Porter and Zigaboo and like the Meters. But
and Ryan Stoltz on guitar, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was.
It's fantastic.
It was one of the most incredible experiences I ever had. I was significantly dosed.
Right.
But
feeling no pain.
Yes. I was flying high. But it was a spiritual experience, and so
George Porter. I mean, George Porter is, George Porter's one of the greatest bass players ever. Just being in the room with him is like being in the presence of.
It's funny. I had an interesting experience with George that night too. I was right up front, literally like in front of the stage, in front of George, and I'm like I said, I'm pretty high at this moment, and I just like take a step back, and I just look at it all. I'm shaking my head, and I just go, "You're the fucking man."
And you actually say it out loud, or
yeah? Oh, I totally said it out loud. I didn't mean to. It was just like in the moment. I was just like, "You're the fucking man," and he heard me, and he looked right back at me. And he's in the middle of playing, and he goes, "You're the man." And I was like, oh, and I was literally like, "Oh, nah, you're the fucking man." And then he's like, "Okay," and then
he played for a friend of mine's wedding rehearsal dinner. He was the band that played at the dinner, and I brought my tape deck like an idiot or an asshole, and I was like, can I patch out of the soundboard? And he's like, there's no soundboard, but if you give me your deck and the patch, I'll run it out of my dad on the stage. So he recorded the show for me
That's awesome.
while he was playing.
That's awesome.
God bless him. Good
Yeah, they're
man.
awesome. All right. Well, listen, I want to do some housekeeping now. If we don't have to necessarily run, but we skipped it in the front because you're so damn
Yeah,
excited
I
to talk
had one.
about
Yeah,
it.
I had something else I wanted to ask about their
Well, let me get
community
this out
work.
of the
Right,
way, and then you can ask it. I didn't mute you. I was just
yeah.
signaling
No,
to
I'm
you to
giving
let
my
Kevin
flex.
to let Mike talk. Anyway, tonight after the show, we'll be back with another After Phish after show. These have been awesome. If you haven't caught them yet, it's a really fun way to recap the show we just watched and hear some of our opinions. We also have the Wookiee Awards coming up in September, so get excited for that. I know I just skipped a bunch of shit, but I am pumped for the Wookiee Awards. At Dick's Lot, if you're gonna be there, we're gonna be there every day, every night, and every day on lot. Look for the Wook Plus flags. What else we have? We're gonna have a tour recap show the Wednesday after tour, so next Wednesday.
We're probably
Uh,
going to have something special happen at Dick's. I think we're allowed to mention that.
Yeah, we're gonna be working again with Osiris and HF Pod out there.
Nice.
A lot of things going on. As far as Eggy, they just released their tour and tickets are on sale right now. If you have the code, here's your code. If
And
you
if
don't
you're
remember this, you could go on tomorrow and they're on sale to everybody, but get
for
them as soon as
everybody,
you can
but
because
get
I
in
have a feeling
tonight.
this shit's going to blow up.
Be
And you
that
want to
guy.
get it before it blows up so you don't have to pay a third party
After
vendor.
everybody sees this show, nobody's going to be able to get tickets.
Right.
Damn
So
straight.
get them direct. Get
And
the
if
tickets
you
direct.
really need to see Eggy, on the 10th they're going to be in Massachusetts at a vineyard camp out, and then the 15th through 17th Renaissance Music and Arts Festival down in South Carolina.
Yeah, I got to tell my brother about it. He's going to love you guys.
Oh yeah, a Renaissance. I
you're-
love the
you're-
Renaissance fairs.
Just the fact that you're giving Charleston so much love this year, I think, is also going to go along.
Do you have a connection there, or it just happens that's where the dice roll?
You know, we've just had really, really good fucking times there. We opened for Spafford at the Poorhouse couple years ago and had a
Pre-pandemic.
really good time. And then we went back and did a headlining show, and Charleston showed up, man. They brought the house down, and we've every time we've gone back, you know, more people and more good vibes, and the Poorhouse especially has
The place
treated
is
us
great.
extremely well, and the fan base that hangs around there is really cool. So, you know, we love Eggy loves Charleston.
Nice. So let me ask you, we're big into trying to do for the community and supporting causes. You guys had something called Project Illuminati?
Yeah, Illuminate.
Illuminate.
Eliminate.
Okay.
Yeah.
This
Don't
first
take any
time I
offense,
fucked
by the
up.
way. Kev fucks
First time I
everything up. He was like, a guy forgot, and it was not only was it not Guy Forget, but it was like forget, not forgot. He fucks everything up. That's just his thing. He has a mental block. Project Illuminate, though. Why don't you tell us about Project Illuminate?
You know, so it's something that you know, we are always interested in giving back to the community in some way. We've done a couple of different initiatives that we've given back to. Most of them tied in with limited edition merch items, and where we give a significant portion, if not all, of our profit to different charitable organizations. Over the pandemic, we donated to, you know, some Black Lives Matter causes, and just recently we did a collaboration with one of our friends, Orion Jewelry, where she made some really cool beads and different pieces of jewelry that are still available, where a portion of our proceeds there go to benefit actually a local charity to us here in Connecticut, the Jamie Hulley Arts Foundation. And they give money to schools and kids to further music and arts education at a young age, which is hugely important to us because that's how we got started. We had a really good music program at our high school, which not a lot of people have, you know.
Yeah, so many schools got rid of it and they have football and that's it.
Yeah, so, you know, it's definitely important for us to work with organizations like that like I said, if I didn't have that band room to go to and chill with Jake while we skipped math class, like we wouldn't be here. So
did you guys know when you were in the band room, by the way, that you would be doing this? Like, did you always have that vision that you're going to be in a band together or at least try?
Yeah, we kind of did. We kind of knew it was always going to happen, even though we like did different things. We were both in different bands in high school. Actually, we competed against each other in a battle of the bands in high school. Our different bands.
Who won?
My band won.
Hell yeah!
And you took their drummer.
No, that was much later on. That was much later on. But so there's always been that thought in our minds, and I went off to college. We went off to college in different areas, and always kind of knew we were coming back together, and
now you live together and you're fucking killing it.
We're
Playing awesome
trying,
music,
man.
going on tour.
We're trying.
Living the dream. All right. Well, I think we're gonna call it. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
It was good. Don't forget tonight I got Guy Forge Ghost and fan sets on the Afterfish after
You,
show.
Kev, I'm so proud of you. You nailed it.
Thank you,
Thanks
guys.
for coming on. This is so much fun.
Hell yeah.
Thank you all for watching.
Hey, thanks, Mike.